Hello, I'm Penny, this is Penelope's Pitstop, and this is stage 21, middle chassis frame and propeller shaft.
Makes me feel good.
So, welcome to stage 21 of the Ecto-1 build. As you know, I always like to go through the parts first. So we have 21A, and this is metal. This is the middle chassis frame. So part B is the propeller shaft, which I think is this one. Yes, it is. This is plastic. You can tell it's the correct one. It looks very similar to part C, except that part C doesn't have these little horseshoe bits on the end. They're both plastic and they're both quite flexible actually. So, and then part D is the slip yoke, and that looks like it's going to be these two pieces. There are two of them, and so they're plastic. So that's D, and E is the universal joint, which are these two parts here, and they're just essentially little crosses with holes in the ends. So that's E. F, there is no F. We have a packet of CM screws, and they are 2.3 by 4 millimeters, and there should be 4 plus 1 spare. I can see there's 5. Then we have EM screws. They are 2 by 4 millimeters, and there are 2 plus 1 spare, and this one looks a big bag. These are IP screws, 2 by 5 millimeter, and this should be 12 plus 3 spare. So let's have a look. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, about 15. Yeah, I'm happy with that. Okay, so this is stage 1, and for this I've got the model, which I placed very carefully upside down. Remember, you've got the engine underneath all of this, and you've also got that sticky out steering column, which obviously will come into play later. So we've also got part 21A, and we'll also need 2 EM screws, which I've not prepared this well enough. There we go. And I've also got my screwdriver, which has got a JM 2.0. So all we're going to do in this stage is take this piece, and it looks like it's going to go there, which I think is correct. Right, so yeah, it's going to be placed there. So obviously bear in mind we've got these wires, so it just needs to go over there like that, and then we will secure that with 2 EM screws going there and there. I apologize you can't get a good view, but I will obviously show you a little bit later. So that one's going in, and that's just enough to hold. And you can use oil on these because it is an EM screw, which means it's going into metal. And that does not want to hold that screw. So there we go. So this one's going in fully tight, nice and tight. And then this one, there we go. And there's no movement there. So let's see if I can get you a better view by placing it on its side, and there we go. So this is the piece in question, and if I just move it along, it's just been secured there, and just so there's no movement. I don't know if you can see, but there is still a channel through there. So if you remember these wires we put in before, that's where they go. So there is a second part to this stage. So where we've screwed the screws in there, it did actually cover up some holes on the other side. So let's there's actually a piece fallen out there. So my little pipe has fallen off, as it often does. So we'll flip that over onto the opposite side, and then in these 4 places, let's use my pointy stick, there, there, there and there, there's 4 holes, and we just require, let me double check, CM screws. So these are a different size from the last ones we've used, and you may need to just hold it from behind just to push that part in. And I'm just going to pop 1 screw in there, and then I'll do the other 3 using my opposite corners method. So on to stage 2, assembling the propeller shaft, and we need to insert the propeller shaft cover 21C into the corresponding space in the propeller shaft 21B, and we need to fix with 4 IP screws. So on to the final stage of this build, stage 3. We're going to need quite a few IP screws, so I'm just going to chuck them straight onto my magnetic mat. And we are going to need all the remaining pieces, and we are going to begin by inserting the universal joint, which is this one, into the end of the slip yoke. So that the screw holes in both parts are aligned, and we will secure those with an IP screw, something like that. Secure these parts together with IP. Repeat this with the remaining slip yoke and universal joint. Next, take these assembled pieces and insert them into the brackets at the end of the propeller shaft, fixing them together using 2 IP screws. So what's actually going to end up happening is this piece will go into there, and this piece will end up there, so you can see that you can get freedom of movement. It's a little bit like one of those screwdrivers that can screw around corners. So let's crack on.
Bustin' makes me feel good.
So there we go, guys, we have fitted the universal joint, and I do apologise for that. I always get text messages at the wrong time. So what we actually have is, because we have movement this way and movement up, it means we've got a large range of movement. One thing I did find though is when I first tightened these screws, I couldn't actually move the joint. So I don't know if you noticed, but I screwed them up as tight as I could, and then I just backed them off about half a turn. But that's it. That's stage 21 complete. Now I think it's a fair assumption that wheels will be going on there. I'm really not sure. No, I don't know. But I was wondering if perhaps this is now the width of the car. So I may actually just change the overhead view. There we go. So that's the length of the car. So to give, or the width, sorry. So to give you a rough idea, I'm on the wrong side of the measuring bit, but that's placed on the 0. So that's 330 millimeters. So that's quite a large piece. So that's it for this week. Very short build this week. But but you know, some builds are long, some builds are short. But next week we'll be doing some more, so I hope to catch you then.